Alright, so now I've smoothed out my edges a little bit to make sure I don't have any cracks. And what I actually decided to do, I'm a big fan of texture, so I decided to go around and just pinch the edge of my mug here so that I can kind of have a fun texture. And what that's going to do is allow some of the glaze to settle in these textured areas, which I will show you a bit later. So I thought that would be kind of fun, and then I also made sure the bottom's nice and smooth. And if you find that some areas are a little too thick, you can take a loop tool and certainly carve out some areas. Okay, and then just make sure you take a sponge and come back in and just really smooth that out. Okay, you want to make sure the bottom of your mug is nice and smooth. Okay, so now I'm going to show you a couple things you can do to finish off your mug, and you can certainly use these examples and put your own twist on them. Absolutely do that. Okay, so one thing you can do is I'm going to flip my mug upside down here, and just to show you, I am just using a wheel here. This is just a wheel for decoration, for working with clay, adding glazes. So it's kind of nice because as you're working, you can spin your project a little bit. So if you want to add on a foot or carve away some of the bottom of your mug, you can certainly do that. Okay, sometimes what ceramic artists will do is they'll just carve out a little bit right through here and leave an edge kind of along. So I'm going to show you how you would do that. So I'm not going to carve too much because I don't want to break through the bottom of my mug here. But what you can do is just kind of create a small indentation using the loop tool. Okay. Feel free to get rid of that extra clay. Okay. And depending on how much clay you have on the bottom, you can go a little bit deeper than what I'm doing here too. I just, like I mentioned, don't want to go too far in because I don't want to break through. And then I can use my finger here to just kind of smooth this out. And this is just going to create a nice little foot for the bottom of my mug. And some mugs have this, some don't. Some have flat bottoms. So you can kind of pick and choose what you want to do. Okay. And then I can take this and I'm going to press the inside back down a little bit because it might, when you're trying this, it might come up a little bit. So go ahead and do that, and you can flip it over and see you've just got a nice small foot on the bottom of your mug. Now the other thing you can do that can be kind of fun is you can actually make little feet for the bottom of your mug, and I've done this in the past. It's kind of fun. So you could, for example, just kind of make some little round discs and stick those to the bottom of your mug if you wanted to. You could do 4, you could do 3. I've also seen some mugs that are kind of cool where they have actual little feet coming off the bottom of them. So you can play around with that a little bit, and sometimes that can kind of be a fun alternative for the bottom. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and take these off, but just know that that's something you can do. Now the other thing I'm going to show you is how to add a handle to this. So there's a couple ways you can make a handle, and I'm going to just put this off to the side depending on what you want to do. So one way you can make a handle is you can take a chunk of clay, and you can use a large loop tool, and I've got actually some little clay I got to pick out of this. You can take a large loop tool and you can actually cut out a chunk of clay and then smooth and manipulate this into your handle. Okay, so that's one way. I'm going to set that aside. Another way, if you remember when you did coil pots with Mrs. Burgess, is you can actually roll a coil. Okay, and sometimes it's best to start with a bigger coil than what you're going to need because you can trim it down. Okay, so you can start with a coil and trim it, and depending on how big you want the handle, then you could turn this into a handle. Okay, and another way you can actually roll out a slab. You could use a rolling pin if you wanted to, and you can just use a felting knife to cut out a handle as well. And then you can take slip on your hands or a little bit of water and smooth this out to create a handle. So I'm actually going to come back to that first handle that I made and just kind of work on this shape a little bit. And I'm going to show you how you can attach it. Okay, so depending on what kind of handle you want, sometimes it can kind of be fun to pinch into it a little bit, form it, shape it. I'm going to kind of go with a pinched look to match the rest of my cup. All right. Now the biggest thing to keep in mind when you're creating a handle is you want to score and slip it. So here I've got my mug. So determine where you want the handle to be, and then you're going to make some little score marks directly into the clay at the top and then at the bottom of where that's going to be. Okay, so there's the score marks. And then what you're going to do, depending on how you want to hook on your handle, you can hook your handle on kind of like this, or you can actually flip the top and put your handle on like this, and then have it kind of loop around, which can kind of be nice. So I think that's the route I'm going to take, and my handle needs a little bit of work here. Okay, so I'm just going to smooth that out a little bit more, and after you attach it, you can certainly keep working it too. And you could make your handle into something. Perhaps you want to make your mug look like a dog. You can make the handle its tail, or you can make a dragon mug with a tail, or I've seen octopus mugs where one of the tentacles is the handle. So there's some fun things you can do. So now I've scored and slipped. Okay, I've scored the top part of my handle, and I'm going to press that into place. Now keep in mind, you're also going to want to make sure your handle is leather hard. That's really a key point to note. Mine is not. So what you're going to notice is it's not really going to stay into place very well, but for the sake of this demonstration, I'm just going to finish it and show it to you, and then I can actually remove it and let it become leather hard before I apply it. So then I could either go like this, or I could put it down like this, which is the look I think I'm going to go for. So I'm going to press that on, and then I can start smoothing it out. Okay, so now I've got my handle. So I can go back in and I can smooth this, work it. I can add some extra clay on the inside to make sure that's really attached. At this point, you could add designs into the side of your mug. You could do polka dots, press textures into it. You can kind of do whatever you want from here. So have fun with it, explore some different processes, and see what you can come up with.